Thank you very much for being here, and I'm very thankful and humbled to be also among great speakers. Came last night across from Germany, and super happy to be in Georgia. Thank you for having me. My keynote is about something maybe not talked about enough, in my opinion, designing responsibly and inclusively. We saw some aspect also in the great talks before me. Approaching the macro and the micro in experience design. To give you just a little bit hint how the next 25 minutes will look like, I will give you a very, very, very short intro about my studio, how real is the impact of everything we design, what's the difference between accessibility, inclusion, universal design, and so on. What do I mean when I say the myth of the edge case? Why simplicity can be dangerous? And the framework I currently use, which I created, inspired by great designers, macro and micro in experience design, and just to close, that it's all a process and what can we do next. I won't take from your time more than 45 seconds to just have a hint of a bit the work I do, but that's only the surface, and I will get deeper into the topic I came here to talk about. So that's just a hint of the end result, thank you. But let's dive deeper exactly into the topic, how real is the impact? That's from Rafael Vinoloy, architect, the Laguna Garzon Bridge in Uruguay. Maybe some of you already know it. It was built on purpose in a circular form. It was meant to let the people have a separate area, like pedestrians, that they can walk and enjoy the view. And they wanted that the people don't drive super fast, so in this case, they have to slow down and drive and enjoy the view. So many aspects about whatever we create, whether digital or physical or phygital, that we are having a direct impact into people's behavior. Let's take it a bit more digital. Lauren Brichter, if someone from you doesn't know him, it's very important to know that everyone in this room has pulled to refresh their apps. I guess it was here. Should be, yes. Everyone use an app or 2 or 10 which has this pull to refresh. Lauren Brichter, when was interviewed, says pull to refresh is addictive. These are not good things. When I was working on them, it was not something I was mature enough to think about. I regret the downside. There are quite 8 years between the creation of this feature, which is one of the most modern feature of technology today, and the regret. Even in the same interview with The Guardian, he mentioned that while talking to his kids, they're talking to them, trying to have eye contact, they will talk with him and still pull to refresh. It's addictive. So we have a lot to talk about responsibility when we create every pixel in digital design or in the digital sphere. Brings me to the next point. Let's set some terminology straight. Accessibility. We all have been hearing it. That's an accessible building. People with difficulties, challenges, sensitivities, and people without can access this building. Or in a digital context, dark mode, bright mode, or a lot of new tools that show us how much we can play with contrast, typography, size, different challenges of users, and we can give an opportunity to have a perfect experience just like everyone else. That's accessibility in a nutshell. Universal design, let's think about opening a car door. This is one single design solution without the need for adaptation or specialized design for every user, like opening a car door, that we do one solution for all. If we need to think about our topic today, inclusive design, if we think about universal design on a Band-Aid, an example maybe some of you are familiar with, that would be a transparent Band-Aid, where whatever my skin color is, it will show my skin color because it's transparent. If this is universal design, inclusive design is producing something very specialized for a lot of diverse people and including them in the product design or digital design and so on. So that's in a very nutshell, as I said, but I want to point at something. Accessibility is an outcome, and inclusive design is a process. That brings me to the next point, which is inspired by Kat Holmes, the author of the book Mismatch, and she did a great work for Microsoft. And she named a bit of principles. Taking that as a starting point, I want to talk with you about 3 points. One, I know the talk is about inclusion, and I'm starting with exclusion. You will know in a few seconds why. So we start with exclusion. It's clear what is exclusion, but of course here I'm talking about exclusion not by choice. This is very important. Some people choose to be excluded from a meeting or something. I'm talking about exclusion not done by choice. So it's based on the word claudere, like to shut, to let people in or out. Needless to say, this example, some of you might have seen it in Ireland, embarrassing, horrible, I don't find the words for it, where only the black girl was not given a medal in a ceremony in 2022. So inclusive design has a trickle effect. It has a multiplier effect in that it changes those people and in a sense changes society. According to the World Bank, there's 1 billion human experience disability. That's 15% of the human population, according to the statistics last year. That makes 6.4 billion able-bodied. Here I want to pause. Able-bodied. Is it able-bodied? Or maybe temporarily able-bodied? That's why ability bias is dangerous. We cannot assume what is normal, what is able, what is disabled. This is a lot of norm we learn as kids, depends on culture, diversity, depends on designers who define defaults as they are today, and we just as new designers come and continue, and we sometimes never question the defaults. In this year, statistics of Instagram, 2.8% of people using Instagram are above 65. But a few weeks ago, a team member was like boosting a post on Instagram, and of course, you cannot target more than 65. Like these 2.8% that are older than 65, we don't target them. This is exclusion. Focusing on this screenshot, male, female. Other than male, female, we cannot target. This is the two sections we can deal. We live in a world where still sometimes, this is subjective, we say CEO, I don't know how many of you think about a male, how many people think about a female. We still live in a world where we have to say a female CEO. So this terms of othering has something like a superiority from one team to another or one group of people to another. And that's something rarely designers think of because we're so solution-focused. And this the term othering, coined by Gayatri Chakravarty-Spivak in 1985. And the definition of the terminology is the process by which the empire can define itself against those it colonizes, excludes, and marginalizes. Big words. And one might think, or some of you, why are we talking now on such a scale? That was anyway 40 years ago in 1985. I'm bringing it to an example which we all know it today, like checkout forms, registration forms. We always have this male, female, and sometimes in the last 2 or 3 years, other, sometimes have custom and so on. And funny enough, often we see them in this order. I don't know if any time some of you checked why it's male before female. Alphabetically, wrong. Female should be before male. Statistically, 51% of the population is women. We just do it like this, and we continue and build upon it. So also the order of this makes me also skeptical. Back to disability, or the temporary disability, I need to refer to Kat Holmes again, because she talks about disability not as a personal health condition, which maybe, I don't know, X% of people think, mismatch human interaction. Throughout recognizing exclusion, we grasp the perspective of those who are excluded by a solution. And that's the first step towards an inclusive design world, to recognize exclusion. 2, diversity. I'm not talking about the very funny, not funny example 100 years ago, when Coca-Cola did an advertisement in China, and after thousands of billboards were just hanged there, and the translation was wrong. In the dialect of the Chinese, it meant female horse stuffed with wax. So culture, language, all make a big, big impact about when we design, like to see in which context we are working at all. This is Beirut, a country I was born in, a city I was born in, like a chair, now from different perspective, after 16 years in Germany and so on, a chair is a chair. And of course, as a digital product designer, I look at different disciplines, and this is a chair, but in some countries or some cultures, it might be like, you're not allowed to park here. It can be like blocking the car to park. So definitions, perspectives, and perception differs from countries. 2 years research I've done there in a country where there is 18 religious sects, crazy. And I just interviewed hundreds of people, did a lot of research for 2 years to see how much political backgrounds and religious background can affect people in a small city like Beirut not to visit some areas. So some people, based on their prejudice, perception, fear, emotions, and so on, they wouldn't step. They are automatically or by choice like excluded from another area. Let's go back to another part of the world, in the States. In the 50s, Dodge created this car especially for women. Of course it was pink. Of course it has an umbrella bag in the backside. It has even a place where she can put her mascara. Even the advertisement was, first and only car designed for Your Majesty, the modern American woman. This is what I'm talking about the accessories. And this was a huge mistake. Of course, it was discontinued after 1.5 years. They hardly sell some of them because they thought, we need to design something for women. Same thing in 2002 maybe, or 12, the pen, a pen for her, as if women write differently than men. So back to this ad, and I want to point at this headline here, and this is where the problem lies. Designing for. We think designing for, but the reason the way to go is rather to design with. We need to design with the users and not for them. 3, amplification. This is where we start to apply it for one, and then duplicate it, amplify it for everyone. And then we, without any prejudice or any misconception, we design better solutions. We live in a world where we're so, know the word norm or normal. Even the word heteronormative has norm in it. So people talk about the average. CEOs, stakeholders, designers, creative teams, they think, okay, we design for the average. Yeah, the others are maybe edge cases or so. So average doesn't come just because one time our boss or our colleague or a book we read told us this average. It really goes to the 19th century through a lot of statistics and a lot of theories. Here I'm referring to something a bit later on from Richard Hanstein and Charles Murray. This is the bell curve. In a very nutshell, what does it mean? It means that let's design for the average person, which is most people. And all the others are some people. Already the curve already marginalized or excludes people. Direct example about that is the USAF during the war. They wanted to create a new deck for the pilots. They tested it even with 4,000 pilots. They wanted to create the perfect deck. And not even one of the decks fits one person. So it fits the average. Some people liked 80%, some people liked 70%, some people find it a bit usable. And after all this, it was really a catastrophe. The accidents were made, and so on, and so on. So this fact that we try to design for the average, for most people, will result for designing for no one. This is something we don't think about every day. We brought it in the modern world for us, like 80-20 rule. 80% of outcomes or outputs result from 20% of all causes or input. In my opinion, this is a flawed system. It worked in marketing back in the days and so on, but this is a system that, in my opinion, it triggers more and more the one-size-fits-all, and this is dangerous. This is what I call a bit like the myth of the edge case. There's nothing called the edge case. This is a way for us designers to think, yeah, if I quit the edge cases, then I'm faster in my process. I don't need to take care about the people who, I don't know, visit my website only once a month. Let me focus about the people that visit my website every day. So we need to re-question prioritization. A few examples why the myth of the edge case, and there's nothing called edge case in my opinion. Pellegrino Turri, one of the first creators of the typewriters, he created the typewriter because his best friend or girlfriend, like Countess Carolina Fantoni di Fiviziano, was having vision sensibilities, and at a certain point, she won't be able to see anymore. So he wanted to create a device, a product, so she can write when she cannot see anymore. The keyboard, we all know it. We thought, yeah, this is like today, like someone created it recently. This is really what started from an edge case, which I disagree with the term, results with a product everyone use. The iron chair, I guess we all know it. The iron chair was specifically designed for elderly people, so they don't have or they don't develop bed sores. That's why the textile, they had weeks and months and years of research for the textile, and this is now everyone's favorite chair, maybe. Even the iPhone, or the first iPhone Touch, we thought, Apple, what an innovative company. That was not created by Apple, by the way. Fingerworks by Elias and Westermann, they created it. And guess what, and why I'm mentioning it here in the edge case myth, because he suffered from carpal tunnel syndrome, and he wanted to create a product which helps him interact with the machine in a better way. And this is when Apple acquired Fingerworks, and 2 years afterwards, they released the first iPhone Touch. Even the patent for Westermann is written in the guideline and the copyright of the first iPhone. These are examples maybe a bit too wide. Let's again bring it to the very, very digital little pixel or granular or atom in digital design. We have here a checkbox and a radio button. This is sometimes really something that costs 1 minute from a developer. I hope developers here don't shout at me, but it doesn't take a lot of effort to change it to a checkbox instead of a radio button. For those who didn't think about them as one is one option, the other I can select multiple. So if we think about a mixed race, like registration, creating a new profile, and so on, why not, instead of offering them one option, so they need to identify in a world where people might identify for more than one thing, especially with race, gender, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Why don't we offer them checkboxes? This is really almost 0% more effort for developers. This is only a decision from a designer that says we should do it. Of course, here comes data. How can we aggregate data and so on, especially when in my teams or with my clients, I offer them to even add a field, and they go crazy. How can we have the data? It's easier, of course, for businesses to say 1 or 2, and then 70% 1, 30% 2. But here comes not the compromise. I can call it a compromise of data for the more and the benefit for the good and for the really user-friendliness and a better product. An amazing example from Medium. It's a blog, like a place where people can write great articles there. Last year, they changed it. I was myself happy also back then when I edited the settings to have my logo, my colors, my brand, and so on. Last year, they canceled that. They literally, in a world where personalization, customization, this is the key for better product, they took a step back simply because that's the feature, is especially true for reader with color blindness or other visual sensitivities, but it applies to anyone. This is the amplification we're talking about. They took away a feature which they already developed, which a lot of people liked, just for this small, but it's actually not at all small, temporarily disabled or marginalized people that have problem with these color contrasts and so on. So such a move is a great example for that. That was, in a nutshell, the exclusion, diversity, and amplification. Always think about these 3 words whenever you're creating a product, a social design project, a digital product, phygital product, and so on. I'd step into the danger of simplicity as next. Simplicity. We all love it, don't we? Simple design. The Apple Siri remote. Apple, in general, simplicity is an icon. Or like the Google form, like the simplicity of having a field for the user to start a dialogue. Here I want to break a bit and say oversimplicity can be really dangerous or a misconception. When and why? Because when we think about simplicity and we think about variable shifting context, we users, we human, we are never in the same context. Now we are here, but in a bit or so we are in a different, I don't know, grabbing a coffee, we're in outdoor, indoor, we are on our phone. There's million touch points per hour, per day for users. So this is when I need to tell you why simplicity is like dangerous, because we all know personas, target audience, when we research and define our users. And this is here, the persona spectrum is something to let us think about users, not in a one-dimensional way. We often, when we do personas, directly we think hero personas, secondary personas, the most average 6 personas, the most representative persona, isn't even persona as a definition, it's called like, it should be representative, but we think representative as prioritized, but no, representative means all of them. And this is where comes here the 3 persona spectrum from Cat Holmes that says users are not always in the same context, as I said. So let me tell you, think about a user that has only one arm. This user, which has one arm, can be permanent, amputated, has an accident, was born with one arm, and so on. But also a user with one arm can have just now an arm injury, and for this week, he is a user with one arm. Or even in this 10 minutes or so, he or she is a new parent, and they have their baby on their hand. So of course, they have also only one arm. So when we think about users in different persona spectrum, we design better products. Direct, simple example is the closed caption. We all know it. When I just watch something and I see simply the text of this audio written. This was, for a long time, thought, yeah, for people, for accessibility and so on, but also many of you can hear and see and listen, but still they are in a crowded place at the airport, they don't want to bother the others, or they cannot literally hear because it's too loud. They also would use this. Let me take a small detour to a personal story. This up there is my grandmother. My grandmother, she passed away a few years ago. She had a couple of those coffee pots. It's called Rakwa. It is designed like that since, I don't know, hundreds of years, with a long hand, so it doesn't be close to the heat or to the fire back then. And she was fine with it. Every household back then in her homeland had like 20, 30, all sizes. Just think about it like the Bialetti, the Italian Bialetti for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 espressi. So at a certain point, after years and years of using them, she had grandchildren, grandchildren. She was feeling super anxious. It was falling, it wasn't balanced, she was not the only user. Her context changed. And she literally bended all her rakwas at home. She literally bended all of them. She was 72 at that time. And she bended all the rakwas, all of them. She changed the product design of all her coffee pots. Funny, but we cannot expect that users change their product themselves or change their experiences or, I don't know, buy new devices and so on so they can use our products. So it's our responsibility, not the user's responsibility. That brings me to almost the end of my talk with the macro and micro in experience design. This is where I introduced you to how I am dealing with the situation since a couple of years, is that, and also like to help teams, help my team, other teams, clients, stakeholders, different people, to look at process in another way. Don't take it as a given framework. Even after this talk, take it, change it, develop it, add to it, deduct from it, use it as an open discussion. Fluid, equidistant, and tailored. What do I mean by that? First, we think in a very zoomed out way. We need to think about whatever we're designing, that this belongs to an ecosystem. This belongs to different touch points. How they are synchronized together, how do they complement each other, how they are like simultaneous talking to each other. So people might check on the iPad, go to the shop, back to the sofa, discussing with partner, and throughout hours or days or weeks until the purchase or download or whatever. So we need to really zoom out, and even if our project is a microsite, campaign page, mobile app, a banner on a website, where does it live? So we design, so contextual environment, this is what I mean by fluid. We design for specific behavior, so in case of any surprises, oh, we didn't know that, I'm not blaming us, but in a way, we didn't zoom out enough. So ecosystem is a major point. Second, equidistant. This might sound very utopic, slightly it is, but if we do the first steps, we might end up with a very, very beneficial output. We live in a world where, of course, business goals, user goals, and we are, as UX designer, experience designers, like the lawyers of the user. But it's very important that we are very involved in prioritizing responsibilities or prioritizing our users. So, as I said earlier, it's like, this is a main user, this is a secondary user, and so on. And even if it sounds very utopic, it is very important that we are at equal distance towards different audiences. That might be like, how can I be at an equal distance to a 1 million euro purchase client and a 1 euro purchase client? It sounds utopic. Nevertheless, the experience can be designed for both of them, even though the company's money is coming more from those people. You might never know how things will change. So really, we need to think about what the user needs and not what the user wants. If you ask a user, what do you want, they will tell you, but they will never tell you what they need. Direct example of one of my projects that was in the healthcare, and I don't know exactly the percentage, but I guess more than 95% of the target audience were hetero couples, a mother and a father. It is something about the blood cells of a newborn kid, but still, by law, we need to give them the option to select who is the second person. Usually, of course, it comes the father. So I simply told them, no, we cannot do that. So we need to tell them optional for single mothers, not optional for same-sex marriages, like the second mother, it says the second mama, or the father. So, and this won't take, again, it will take a 1-minute development costs. So it's just a decision that should be made. And of course, you might think, but you need clients that are open for this inclusivity and so on. But we're in there, and some things are changing slowly. Third point is tailored. Then, take it also as a process if you want, we tailor it. And tailoring is always, we think linear, or people in marketing or business and so on, like a tunnel, and how can we reach them to conversion and purchase and so on. But the focus can be linear, can be like step by step, but the journey is never linear. Some people might start in a certain mindset that is at level 2, and from 10, and then they switch to 5, but they might be in a certain context where they start at 7 and they jump to 1. Take it as a skill level, as a mental state level, take it as a mood swings, whatever it is. So think about it really in a concrete example. A user that is in need of a screw and a user that is in need of a kitchen. This is what I mean, like, the journey is different. Today, this user might need only a screw to build the kitchen, but another day, he or she might move to a new apartment and might need the kitchen and only the other way around, and so on. So when we talk about this journey is not linear, please keep in mind accessibility, age, culture, economic situation, education, gender, geographic location, language, race, and mental state. I know we are doing a lot today, but in my opinion, I tell this to myself as well, it's not enough. So again, the focus might be linear, but the journey is never linear. So take this, as I said in the beginning of this part, as a framework. Take it as how I see experience design today. Take it as a mindset, or if you want, take it as a process from zooming out to tailoring. Before I end up, 1-2 minutes more, promise, we came a long way. I really, on a positive note, we came a long way. We are all experiencing this, maybe still slightly today, but probably not, where it was everything business-oriented. We get a brief, we do it. The boss wants that, we do it. Stakeholders want that, it makes them money, we do it. Then more and more, we were more involved through the experience design 22 years ago when the elements of experience design came in and so on. We had more voice. So we designed a lot. I'm not going to say all based on assumption, but we designed a lot where we designers were super involved in the process. So I might call it now designer-oriented. Then, years ago, we are user-centric. We design for the user, and we've done great work. Even more and more, this circle is getting bigger. And people might think, with inclusive design, it's an add-on. It's a part, when do it at the end? We need to make it inclusive. Like, no, this is not how we look at inclusive design. So it's really more into diving deeper into these different aspects of inclusive design. Before I close, just give you some inspiration to tell you how this is applied to anything. So it doesn't need to be experience design, UX, product design, and so on. Few examples, looking at this ample or the street light in Berlin, that might be for branding purposes, this might be for representation purposes. In Tokyo, for example, recently I was there, and it was like not only in Tokyo, but in different places in the world, this countdown might also play with a very good psychology for the user waiting and not like being like stuttering before they cross the street. This might be also a. In the gaming industry, a product designer, like the Xbox, there's this controller. But of course, great to do such an adaptive controller, so this person can really play together with this person, and not only this person also can play. Also a project of mine for a music education project, like it's very easy to make it a la Netflix, education, and so on, but I also told the client, let's step back, let's ask them why are they there? What are they expecting from the platform? Even in another project of mine, it's not only important to dive deep into the color psychology, that's great, that's user-centric, but also to check how these colors are doing well with contrast. What is allowed or not allowed in the brand manual? What colors are we allowed to use or not? It's not enough to just representation. We change in the Pride Month the logo into a rainbow, and then we claim that we are like inclusive. And then at the same time, like Instagram, have only these two here as gender. Again, my example with the second mother for single mothers, for same-sex marriages, and for hetero couples. Also in advertising, in visual, it's not enough. Words, how we speak with people. And speaking about words, a big topic, not for today, copywriting versus UX writing. What tonality, what words might not be inclusive? And then you might say, okay, where does it stop? Just like we test products, just like we do prototype for products, we can also test words. This is what I've done here, where we really tested which tonality. We talked with mothers, and like we had a UX writer, professional, and then we had like testing to make sure that, okay, the first tonality and this first root is the best. Even if we reduce it to an emoji, recently, or a few years ago only, that the wheelchair emoji got changed to a more in action. Such a curve, such a maybe 3 seconds change in Figma or Adobe Illustrator might change worlds. My closing word is here. I say it to myself and to all of you, to look at the world around us as experiences ready to be remade and redesigned constantly. Thank you very much.